welcome to the special episode of Behind the Scenes. I am your host, Hector Montalvo. This show is dedicated to asking tough questions for you, the viewers. We bring you their responses, and we let you decide. We have invited all potential candidates who are seeking your vote in this election to become the first mayor for the city of Methuen. Joining us today at our MCTV studios as we bring you the first ever mayoral summit are the candidates who are eager to show you, the viewers, how open and transparent they will be under their administration. Joining us today, we have Al Denuncio, Ken Ouellette, Steve Zanni. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you introduce yourselves, tell us your experience, qualifications, and what made you run for mayor? Start with you, Al.
Okay, well, my name's Al Denuncio, and I am a candidate for mayor in Methuen. You know, I have this core belief that city government should be run by professionals, not politicians. And let me get into that a little bit. You know, as a professional, I own my own business for 35 years, several businesses, large corporations. I've managed many people. I know what it takes to manage a city the size of Methuen. So because of that, I sit back and I look and I say, you know, I watch I see all the problems, I see all the things that go on in the city, and I can't sit back and say I can't bring my talents to the table. I have to bring my talents to the table. I can't sit back and not bring them to the table. It's probably the main reason I decided to run, because I know I could do good for the city of Methuen. I know the things that need to be fixed. I know how to fix them. Because of my experience in business, because of my experience in the private sector, I think I'm a little different than my other opponents with the fact that I hit the ground with my feet running, where there's going to be a learning curve with my other opponents because their background just, and no disrespect, but their background dictates that they're going to make the mistakes that I made 30 years ago. They're going to make them because they don't have that experience in their pocket. So I believe I'm the candidate that has the experience to run a city the size of Methuen.
And Mr. Ouellette?
Actually, I'm going to take the contrary view to Al. I'm proud to be a public servant. I studied. I have a master's degree in political science from Suffolk University. I have 16 years at the Massachusetts State House working on Social Security, disability issues, Veterans Affairs, housing, fuel assistance, health care for children, the whole gamut. The City Council for 6 years, 6 years on the school committee. I fulfilled my campaign promises. I voted against tax increases. I voted against inflated budgets, both on the municipal side and the school side. I brought forward openness and transparency. I was the one who recommended that all meetings be televised in the Great Hall, whether it be the City Council meetings or the school committee meetings. People need to be held accountable. When I was first elected to the City Council, I challenged Mayor Pollard on the Brooks Pharmacy. She diverted $200,000 to the Festival of Trees. That was not a Good Boys Network that I was part of. I challenged her. You think if you're part of the system that you can't challenge that system. That's a wrong belief. I'm a very conservative person. I challenged Mayor Pollard on the Brooks Pharmacy issue. I challenged Chief Solomon, no confidence. He cost us $200,000 and we reduced his salary. Superintendent Whitten at the time, she fired the residency enforcement officer. No accountability to the school committee. I challenged her on that issue, went back to the school committee, topped the ticket. We removed over 100 students that did not belong in our school system, saving us over $500,000. I'm an advocate for the GIC, which is the state health insurance plan that would save us $2 million. So to say I'm part of the system, I'm a very independent-minded individual, and I challenge anyone to question my record because I look forward to talking about my record. Thank you.
Mr. Zanni.
Thank you, Hector, and thanks for having us on the show. First of all, to correct some of the viewers, this is not the first mayor of Methuen. This will be the third or fourth, I believe, because we've had Dennis and Sharon Paul, and so this will be the fourth mayor in Methuen. The question you asked initially was the fact of running for mayor of Methuen. I think there are three aspects that I bring, and I think what the question addresses. Number one is the qualifications of each individual. Secondly would be their experience, and thirdly, community involvement. On the educational side, I hold a Bachelor of Arts degree from Curry College in Milton, Mass. Hold the O'Connor Award from Curry College in leadership, also the Football Hall of Fame. Also received my master's degree in administration from Fitchburg State College and doctoral studies at UMass Lowell. So I think I'm well qualified on the educational end. On the second aspect, dealing with experience, I've been a member of the City Council, chairing over the last 6 years, chairing it for two years. I've also been a West District Councilor for 4 years, and also served on the school committee for 2 years in the very beginning, back in the early 90s. And the reason why I got involved in politics here in Methuen back in 1990 initially was the fact that my son and a lot of other young boys had user fees here in the community. I think I mentioned that one of your other episodes. And to me, that was kind of a thing that should be done away with. And when I got elected to the school committee, that was the first thing we did, and we had the votes to do that. So user fees were done away with. Then I served, as I said, on the city council, and now on the city council, we have term limits, which I believe in term limits, by the way. I think I've said that before. So this will be my last term on the city council. And the last part deals with community involvement. The community involvement, first and foremost, I've done a lot here volunteering in the community, a lot of things which I don't say, but I think some of the things that initially are out there publicly, being members of various organizations, but more importantly, dealing with volunteering not only for the Methuen youth sports team, but also in regards to football banquet Arthur Nicholson and myself have been put on for the last 18 years. So there's a lot of other areas I'm sure we'll get into afterwards, but I think those areas are concerns to the residents of Methuen, and I think we have to speak on those areas.
Thank you, Mr. Zani. Can each of you define what open government means to you? Mr. Willett?
Absolutely. Televised meetings. We used to meet in a cramped second-floor conference room, and we used to restrict people from attending meetings. All meetings should be televised, and it should be expanded. Historical District Commission, Community Development Board, they all have their meetings in the Great Hall. I absolutely recommended to have all city council meetings, regardless of the subject matter, be held in the Great Hall and televised. When I went to the school committee, the same thing applied. To have openness about the appointment process. A lot of appointments that are submitted to the city council, all I had was the person's name and address. No resume, no cover letter. If someone is interested in that position, they should have a cover letter, a resume, background information. I have the most accessible website of anyone in this race. It's www.willettformayor.com. Please travel to that website. I talk about my background, my resume, the issues that I advocate for, my agenda, priorities, the works. And again, going back to the school committee, the superintendent was not accountable to the school committee. She laid off the residency enforcement officer. We had the floodgates open, people from outside Methuen attending Methuen public schools. Absolutely wrong. Calling the taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars. We removed well over 100 students as a result, and we brought greater accountability to the school committee, to the school system. We have an outstanding superintendent right now, and we're working with her, but it comes down to communication too. The city council is a co-equal branch of government. The school committee is a co-equal branch of government. The mayor has to reach out to those individuals. We've had examples in the past. Again, former Mayor Sharon Pollard, who is associated with another campaign, diverted $200,000 to the Festival of Trees, did not consult with the city council, was found guilty of ethical violations. And it's something I will not accept any donations from people found guilty of ethical violations. Thank you.
Mr. Zani?
In the first part, dealing with open government, if we talk about that initially, the school, when I was on the school committee, they met in some of the schools, when sometimes didn't get it televised. I ended up having a move to the Great Hall. But the open government to me is more importantly, instead of talking about what I did or what anybody else does, I think it's important that as far as the office goes, it's important that people can come in at any time as far as I'm concerned. If there's not something going on as far as meetings, which are concerned about the city, an individual has a basic concern, that door will be open for that individual as long as there's no meeting going on. So I think open government deals with that. The second part deals with agendas. I believe Jack Burke is in the other room. He came to me initially when I first became chairman. They had an area called public participation, which was held way back down on the list. He said, wouldn't it be a good idea for people to be able to air their concerns before everything was done? So that was done under my leadership, and that public participation was brought up to the forefront. So people have a chance to speak on any issues that are going to be brought up during the course of the evening prior to taking a vote. I think the other part deals with, there's comments here being made about people. As far as I'm concerned, people may make mistakes, but as far as a contribution, if they want to give me a contribution, I have no problem with that. The end result is, as far as helping, I'm leading this campaign myself. I have a great committee, and we're moving this in a direction that's very positive. Methuen has great potential, and I'm hopefully going to be the leader for that potential.
Thank you. Mr. DiNuccio?
Well, what both of you have said is all well and good, and yeah, they're all good things, but how's that working out for us? We don't have open government. You guys have been around many, many, many years, and everything you said that you have accomplished is not working out. We still don't have open government. My definition of open government is involvement. Getting more people involved in government, not shutting the doors, not putting up the walls, not going into executive sessions. And so as mayor, what I would do, one of the first things I will do as mayor, is I would appoint a 10-person mayor's advisory board made up of non-politicians. No politicians are allowed on this. There'll be a cross-section of 10 people in the city, whether they're employees, whether it's a mom, whatever slots need to be filled to have a good cross-section of citizens in Methuen. And we will tackle the issues one by one as a board, as a group, and solve the problem, and then present this as a group, not as one person, not as one mayor, not as one king coming into the council. We'll do it as a group together, as a city, together. We will walk into the council and present our proposal. And it doesn't matter what the city council is made up of, 6, 3, 5, 4. Any logical councilor that sees a proposal that's brought forward to you by the citizens of Methuen can't play politics this way. That's open government to me. Not something being on television, or I proposed this on TV and I proposed this at the city council. That's not working, guys. You guys have 20, 30, 40, 50 years combined service as politicians to the city, and we're talking about this issue. So obviously everything you have done over these 30 years isn't working.
Honestly, if I can respond, I get a kick out of someone who has no record, who's never been elected to office.
So nobody should be elected to office because they've never been elected to office? What kind of... I get a kick out of that statement.
You've ran repeatedly. You've lost races repeatedly.
Yeah, Steve Zadi ran for mayor. He lost. You shouldn't run for mayor, Steve, according to Ken.
But he's an elected official.
So he wants something else, so that's okay to run for mayor now.
I get a kick out of it. You talked for 2 minutes. The only thing you prescribed was an advisory board. I'm a person of action.
Yep.
I have an agenda.
And where's that getting us, Ken?
And I fulfilled my record. You
it's
look at the record.
It's not getting us anywhere as a city. We're a city divided. We're fighting as a city. We're divided amongst many lines. We're divided employees, citizens versus employees, councilors versus councilors. Your open government is not working. Your vision of open government is not working. That's why I'm running for mayor.
The funny thing about it, Steve talks about formulas and status quo and voting for tax increases. Yep. I've advocated for open government. I have the ideas. I talked about the GIC that would save us $2 million.
Yep.
Okay? I haven't heard anything from you on that.
You know, it's talk. That's what it is. We need action.
No,
excuse me. You sit here, Ken, with all due respect.
No, excuse me. Town of Hopedale, 5,000 residents. Saved $800,000.
Yep.
They saved jobs.
Yes.
They lowered the premiums for the workers. They stabilized the tax rate.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
That's not talk.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
Okay.
What I'll say about that, though, is that it's a short-term answer. Because next year, that goes up.
No,
and when everybody gets into the GIC, eventually that health care never goes up, but everybody else's health care does.
If you look at the GIC, it's a 5.4% increase on average over the last few years. Yep. Municipal health care is 10.8%.
Today.
Excuse me, 10.8% over the last few years.
Yep.
Okay, that's not sustainable.
No, it's not.
So where is your ideas coming from?
I tend to agree with you. I'm telling you I tend to agree with you on the GIC.
So don't do me
all I'm saying it's not a cure-all. It's not a cure-all.
Steve should have an opportunity.
Yeah, he should.
But don't lump me with other...
You're off topic on open government because GIC is not open government.
Don't lump me with other people. Let's have a good discussion.
I didn't know I did.
Okay, let's hear from Mr. Zani.
Kind of add a couple of things to what the question was. Initially, the comment is about saying, well, I'm for tax increase. My candidate here, if he goes back to 2006 and 2007, he voted for the budget and for tax increases on both those budgets on the record. So he has voted for tax increases. And that's on the record. So let's get that straight.
Have you ever voted against a tax increase?
Yes, I have.
When was that?
I want to hear that one.
The second part.
Thank you, Steve.
The second part is that Al is talking about politicians over a long period of time. The end result is, if you're looking at local politics, we're talking about $4,800 for a part-time position. I held the teacher administrator position for 36 years. That was my work. I worked for a living. And the end result of that, I served and tried to give back to my community on a part-time basis that I think worked out very well. And as far as the open government goes, people have an opportunity to come to City Hall, advocate anything they have. They can get up and speak as you have, Hector. The end result, we maybe have 3 or 4 people. Basically, most of the people in this community are happy with what's going on in Methuen. Again, the politicians create the problem. The end result of that is they keep on saying, well, this is wrong and that is wrong, but they don't bring solutions to the table.
Steve, have you gone door to door?
So the
residents are happy?
Obviously not.
So the end result is that people are looking again for accountability. And I think I possess that and will bring that. So I think those are the things that the candidates are talking about. The question is, what are your solutions?
And you talked about, Hector, too, talking about openness and transparency, ethical government, integrity in government. Steve, I think, kind of alluded to that he's accepting donations from Sharon Pollard. She is part of his campaign. Convicted of ethical violations, $4,000 in fines. Is that how you start openness and transparency in government? That's the old guard. That's the machine that I'm fighting against. Al, I can respect.
Thank you.
Al and I are on the same wavelength on many issues. Yep. We have good debates, good give and take. But Steve is Mr. Status Quo. Absolutely. I will not accept any donations from people convicted of ethical violations. $4,000 in fines? Give me a break.
Nobody, first of all, let me if I could answer that. As far as the donation goes, again, somebody wants to give, they don't buy me with a donation. A donation I accepted. And the ethics thing was actually done away with.
Excuse me. That was not $4,000 in fines was not done away with.
Well, she had to pay a fine for it.
Yeah,
and the end result.
Let's talk about
let's talk about the present. What we're trying to do here. The end result is I'll receive endorsements from the firefighters as well, the local labor union 175, and I'm happy to receive those endorsements. As far as the firefighters here in this town, they work hard. They have a 98% approval rating, and I really appreciate that I have their endorsement. So if the candidates, and they may seek endorsements, they may not seek endorsements, because they're not going to do it. To me, it's important that people working in our community, if they want to support me, I have no problem with that.
That's open government. I got to get in for a second. I'm an idea guy. I like to throw ideas out there, and I like people to feed on my ideas. This is the camera I got to look into right here. All right. I like to throw ideas, and when I throw ideas out there, sometimes they might not start perfect, but people jump on board. This is my theory with the 10-person advisory council. I'm going to throw the ideas out there, and as mayor, I'm going to make sure that they have the correct information to make good decisions. That's open government, having information available so you can. Most of the people in Methuen, their biggest frustration, and I do go door to door, and I know you do too, Ken. I know people have seen you out there, and I'm out there.
You too, Al.
And people honestly say that their biggest frustration in Methuen is we can't get information. A lot of people in this studio, I hear this from these people on MCTV all the time. We can't get information on the radio. We can't get information. This panel will have all the information that the power of the mayor's office has to give them to make informed decisions. That's open government. I mean, you know, Steve, you say you're not a career politician. I agree, you're not a career politician, because that means that's your livelihood. But you're a lifelong politician. And guys, how's this working for you? Here we are today. Our leaders have been there a long time. It is time for a change.
Let me ask you all this question. How do you plan on implementing an open government policy within your administration? We'll start with Mr. Sani.
Well, as far as open policy administration, the first thing we'll see what we currently have. As far as an advisory board or something like Al is saying, initially it becomes a little cumbersome, I think, with that. Because number one, you're talking about getting 10 residents. Who are going to be these 10 residents come forward? You're going to accept applications, then you're going to screen them out, people you don't. To me, you're the leader of a community. If you're going to be mayor of the community, you have to be the leader of the community. Open concept can deal with a lot of different aspects of that. And that word can be thrown. Everybody throws the word transparency around, accountability. To me, it's leadership. And showing that leadership, and I think I've done that over the last 6 years as a councilor. And the end result of that is that people will have an opportunity to speak. Now, he says, well, they don't get information. Particularly, tell me what information they are not receiving. You know, we have a candidate who said, information I can't get. What information can't you get? Kenny has been on the council for the 4 years that I was there, probably these last 2. And I think it was open government. People get along. There was no problem with that. Again, you have 5 and 4 votes because there are personalities. But the end result is, tell me what information that people are not getting. I'd like to hear that.
I think there's a lot of energy out there. I think what I would like to actually establish is a community development, a community service board to garner and tap into that energy for people to volunteer. There's a lot of things that are out there. We have a dilapidated Forest Lake that needs to be rehabbed. We have the cleanup campaign that's once a year. We should be having activities every weekend, whether it's rehabbing Forest Lake, getting rid of graffiti, cleaning up debris and garbage. The Merrimack River is a colossal project that always has to be tackled. Helping people construct ramps to go into their properties for low-income individuals. There's a lot of people that want to contribute to better government and to a better quality of life for Methuen residents. And we can tap into that energy. There's a lot of negativity out there, and there's a lot of distrust, and I believe it's warranted at times. If you look at Brooks Pharmacy, you look at Chief Solomon, the civil service, how that was conducted with all the favoritism, Superintendent Witten, we've had a lot of scandals over the years. And I've been on the front lines confronting those scandals. Again, Mayor Pollard confronted her on a $200,000 diversion to the Festival of Trees. Chief Solomon, no confidence, reduced his salary. $200,000 that he's responsible for, that we are going to end up paying that bill. Superintendent Witten, again, laid off the residency enforcement officer, not communicating to the school committee. And my record, I'm on the front lines all the time, making sure that people have their questions answered, that they have information. At times, you'll go into executive session because that's litigation, that's negotiations with unions. You need that strategy session. But I don't recall a time where we had a public session, going into executive session, talking about a budget or something else, and then going back into public session. Didn't happen on my watch. Maybe ask Steve on that.
Okay, well, I've already talked about the 10-person advisory board that I'm talking about, but I've done a lot of work on this advisory board. I've worked out all the details, and it'll actually work very well. And by the way, all the members will be handpicked by the mayor, which would be me if I'm elected. I would handpick all the members myself, based on their background, based by what they bring to the table, not who they are, but what do they bring to the table. There's slots in that 10-person people, that 10-person board that need to be filled. Maybe it's a lawyer slot, maybe it's a medical slot, maybe it's a teacher slot. Whatever I determine that it's going to be, those slots will be filled so we have a good cross-section making decisions together. Ultimately, the decision will be made by the mayor, but this is an advisory board. That's the definition of it. As far as people in the city that can't get information, I deal with community activists all the time. Ms. Godsey, who's doing the Rail Trails Committee Association, which is a very good project. I got to plug it here on the air. They're taking the railroad tracks out. They're making trails for the city of Methuen. It's a fantastic project. Every state is involved in it, all the way from the Canadian border down through Boston. It's a fantastic project. People need to look at this project. I got to plug it. She works extremely hard, and it's very frustrating for her to deal with the city every day. I hear, Steve, you're obviously not out on the street. People are saying this every day, that they can't get information. We have many community activists in the city. Jack Burke happens to be one of them. Talk about never getting information. These guys have to file Freedom of Information Acts to get information. On a regular basis, this happens. This goes on. I believe Mr. Montalvo's had to do that several times, file Freedom of Information. Information is not given out by politicians. They don't want you to know what's going on. They do put the walls up. I believe that as mayor, we need to take those walls down. This is part of open government, taking the walls down. Everybody's involved in the government together. This is our city. When you guys go into executive session, I get mad. What's going on with my city? I don't know what's going on in an executive session. This is our business. If you don't want it to be on television, so be it. But you know what? We should be allowed into the meeting. Shut the TV off, and at least the people there can see what's going on. But executive session, I get mad when you guys do that. I'm like, damn, I got a big stake in this city. It's where my family lives. This is where I pay my taxes. Where my home is. This is where everything I do is. And I can't see what's going on with my city. Thank you.
Just if I can just comment on that, Steve will probably follow up on it. You don't divulge legal strategy. We have Chief Solomon who's suing the city of Methuen. You don't have that in public session, your strategy. You just don't. When you're negotiating with unions and talking about concessions, you don't do that in open session. That would be idiotic. So there's certain times...
I don't like that terminology, but
there's certain times that executive session is warranted and it's legal. It's a state law. At certain times, and Steve can comment on this, that they went into executive session or an aside meeting and talked about the budget. That is absolutely, positively, 100% wrong. So there's certain qualifications, very limited. I would say litigation and negotiations, and I would say that would be it.
You're close.
You're close. I would whittle down.
I don't see the negotiations going in executive session. That usually is done by the mayor's office, anyways.
No, but you have to
negotiations.
No, it's the mayor, it's negotiation teams, school committee members, and city councils are part of those negotiation teams. Definitely with the school committee, and then you have to divulge that in executive session.
But you are in agreement that executive session gets used for the reason it's not supposed to be.
It gets overkill at times. So I agree with you on that.
I think that the litigation aspect, and I think Al doesn't understand municipal government, is the fact that you definitely have to go in executive session for that. And there are issues that will come up that I think executive session is essential, and also with collective bargaining rights.
It's a great Bill Manzi line.
The end result is that there's a big difference between municipal government and what's in the private sector. And when you have collective bargaining agreements and you have litigation issues, those you just can't shut off the camera and start talking about it, because there are people's personalities and also issues that they can end up suing you for. So those things are very important as far as having an executive session.
Well, let's talk about suing, because we seem to get sued a lot in this city. So obviously the executive session isn't stopping the suing process. As a businessman, 35 years, I'm proud to say I've never been sued in 35 years of business, owning multi-million-dollar corporations. My last business had 250 employees. I've employed hundreds, if not thousands, of people through my career, and I've never been sued, because I live by the simple philosophy that you treat people the way you want to be treated. And that's really easy to do. It's not a hard thing to do. We get sued every time we turn around. There's another lawsuit coming down the road. I think we got several more coming down the road right now. That tells me we're doing something wrong. We're definitely not doing something right if we're constantly being sued. And it has nothing to do with executive session, because you guys go in there plenty of times and we're still getting sued.
I think there's a linkage between the lawsuits and endorsements. The lawsuits in politics in different departments. There should be a firewall between the mayor's office and union endorsements. There should be a firewall between the politics in different departments. There should be managerial studies of the police department and the fire department. We haven't had that in quite some time. Okay? I'm not taking advice from someone convicted of ethical violations. I don't have a former chief of staff to that person convicted of ethical violations providing money and resources to a campaign. The fire department, I'm glad Steve is receiving that endorsement. God bless him. The GIC would save the taxpayers $2 million. That's where I disagree with the fire department. I would still sit down with the fire department and work on the issues. Why do you need to have a union endorsement to have a conversation with the fire department? I was elected many times, raised about $1,000 at times, and topped the ticket. I think the voters of Methuen, the conservative voters of Methuen, don't need to see a union endorsement next to my name. Thank you.
Well, I think you're talking about the top on the ticket. If you just look over the last, I've been involved with this city now for the last 6 years, day and night. The end result of that is over the last 2 terms, last term, I've topped the ticket, talking about topping the ticket, topped the ticket of every single individual in the community. And the time before that, topped the ticket as well. So the people are out there. I don't know if it's just a name recognition or what, as some people may think. But I've been around here, and I've been out in our community, and I go from door to door, and I've seen people, and I've worked with businesses. I know exactly what the community needs. And again, it needs leadership. It doesn't need all these just comments, just pie-in-the-sky thoughts. The end result is look at the records of each of us and what we've accomplished within city government. And I think you have to stand on that. I know one of my opponents here has done work within the community, and the other one hasn't. The end result of that, I think that's what you put on the line. And then if you're talking about this and that and business and I've done this and I've done that, specifically tell me what you're going to do. You know, they said, I don't know, basically what are your goals and objectives for the year, and then at the end of the year be able to evaluate them and see what their performance has been. And I think that's how you move a city forward. You also have a chance to work with people and see how they work together.
Just briefly, I agree with Steve Zani on the high school issue. I support the high school project. Steve's individual project, the new clubhouse, has failed. It has not been constructed yet. He mentioned in Methuen Life, and you can look at the article, that he would lead an effort to have a new clubhouse attached to the high school project. He failed miserably on that. So as an administrator, his pet project failed. Now I'm trying to do is have advertising, naming rights, and other outside vehicles coming into the process, advertising, to rehab Ranger Stadium, to paint it, to put in championship banners, and to have a new clubhouse. The city of Haverhill has a group that came in and did naming rights. Methuen should do the same thing. That's a glaring error right there, to have a void of no new construction of a clubhouse. We should have advertising, naming rights, rehab, Ranger Stadium. So as an administrator, that's a failed pet project, I would say.
Yeah, you know, I talked about that. I got those projects built. We did them down at Milk Street at Veterans Park, and we got it done up at Burnham Road. I was not involved in the one on the East End because it was a different group of people at the time.
You didn't leave them vacant for months.
No,
you
I'm going to get to that because, you know, I was out last night going door to door, and I just so happened to be directly across the street from that project, and I'm not kidding you, this is the truth. And the people over there are kind of upset too because it's an eyesore now at this point, and the weeds are growing out of it. But I got to applaud you for thinking out of the box. Because that's what I'm talking about. When you're talking about, not everybody thinks that's a great idea, and you're never going to get anybody to think any idea is great. But at least you're thinking out of the box. You're thinking not like they have been thinking for the last 20 years over there.
And it wouldn't cost the taxpayers any money. Naming rights and advertising.
You know, there's all kinds of buzzwords. The green light thinking, out of the box thinking. You got them all, and that's thinking out of the box. I don't have the answer to that, and I'm going to applaud you for at least having an idea. I'm working on something for that because it is an issue. You've created an issue by not doing something. So, you know, congratulations. That's green light thinking. I like it.
Well, can I just respond
here?
That project with the clubhouse started over 2 years ago, there's no question. We received $20,000 in donations from people initially, and I worked on it with some of the laborers, free of charge, got the foundation and the plumbing done. Then we went out trying to seek more funding. We're not talking $20,000 anymore. We're talking a $300,000 to $400,000. And what I'm looking at is that's something you're not going to raise automatically from the community. My thought is that's something that should be linked in with the high school project as well. So I'm looking at that. The end result is, as far as the stadium goes, last year, they had goalposts that were 40, 50 years old. They had the goalposts replaced last year, and this year, before the season opens up for the stadium, it's all be painted, sealed, and it'll be wraparound covering on the bleachers. What they have done over years is waste $5,000 every year replacing the actual boards. And the end result of that is you're wasting money. So by covering them and doing that, they'll last for a long time. Eventually, they should be aluminum seating in the stadium. But as far as the clubhouse goes, it was something that was started with a lot of people in the community. We ended up with raising X amount of money, not realizing the end result was going to be this much because we thought we were going to get more donations.
They're not cheap. I know. I've done it. You have to stay with it, though.
The economy tanked. We got some. At the end result is you just can't build it overnight.
And again, I mentioned City of Haverhill. If the economy is tanked, they have naming rights for that stadium.
Well, you've been talking about that for 2 or 3 years, and yet you haven't done anything with it. As far as the stadium,
we are doing advertising. We have someone assigned to do advertising in the ice rink. By the way, thank you, Steve.
I don't see anything on the stadium.
Why don't you ask the
school
school department on that?
Well,
thank you. You know, one thing, I don't have a dilapidated lot right now that's collecting weeds. I wouldn't be proud of that project. Naming rights, advertising. Again, the NFL has a foundation. Yep. You could rehab the entire field free of charge. It wouldn't cost the community anything. Look at foundation grants, nonprofits, naming rights, advertising, the whole galore. Alumni base. Have you sent out letters to the Alumni Association?
The Alumni Association is just formed, if you recall, over the past year.
Okay.
And they meet every week.
Okay, so don't criticize me for my issues, okay? My ideas, Steve.
So don't understand what they're doing.
2 years in the dark.
Well, you have been.
Ken,
no, you've been in the dark on that project. All right, go ahead now.
Ken, I have a spot on the Mayor's Advisory Council for you. You fill a perfect spot. Maybe not you personally, but this is what I'm talking about. People with this kind of thought process to move us forward. The stagnant old, this is the way we've always done it. Anytime I took over a business, bought a business, had to redo a department, the first words I get from anybody is, I'd ask them, why are we doing it like this? And they would say, it's because this is how we've always done it. And this is what I hear in Methuen. This is how we've always done it.
The status quo.
That's how it's always been. This is how we've always done it. That's moving backwards in today's society. That ain't even staying the same. That's moving backwards as far as I'm concerned. We need to move forward. The status quo, the same old, this is how we've always done it, just doesn't cut it anymore. How old are you, Mr. Zain? I want to pronounce it right, I'm sorry.
66.
66. So, you know, I'm not doing the math that fast when you start at work, but, you know, you maybe you're on the tail end. You're retired, I assume, at this age. Good for you. I wish I was, but... you know, maybe your thought process is a little old-fashioned. I don't mean to be personal about it. I'm really being no disrespect. But maybe your thought process is a little old-fashioned.
Maybe in your mind.
Yeah, well, yes.
Maybe in your mind.
I agree with you again.
Again, you're talking, you know, just rhetoric. You're not giving any specifics at all. And again, you're not coming up with solutions. I'm just looking, people keep on talking about solutions.
I gave specifics.
Give the solutions.
I did.
Now, and speaking,
I mentioned your pet project, which is an absolute
You're running Phil
failure.
Manzi's campaign. Did he groom you on this? That's pretty funny.
It's the status quo over here.
and speaking of status quo, how do you plan to move beyond the status quo? We'll start with you, Al.
I'm sorry, sir.
How do you plan on moving towards with your administration beyond the status quo?
Just myself not being a politician, never being in politics, is moving beyond the status quo right off the bat. The powers to be, and the people out there listening know who they are, the old school politicians who still run things from behind the scenes, do not want Al DiNuccio to be the next mayor, because things will change if I'm the next mayor, because I'm not the status quo. I don't owe favors. I do not work under the favor system. What happens with the status quo is I owe you a favor, you owe me a favor, he owes him a favor, he owes him a favor. Everybody owes favors to each other. Nothing progressive gets done that way. This is what we're running today, folks. Don't be fooled. We are running under the favor system. There's so many politicians that are embedded in Methuen that everybody owes everybody. I come in non-status quo, non-politician, never winning a seat before because I'm not a politician. Come in as non-status quo. They do not want to see me elected.
Honestly, you know, if you go back to some of my races, Kathleen Koirami, I'm going to mention her name. This was about the time of the Festival of Trees. I think she raised about $10,000 from Sharon Pollitt's people. I have the list. $10,000. I raised about $1,000. She outspent me at least 5 to 1, maybe 10 to 1. You know, if I'm being conservative. I almost beat her. Again, never accepted any union endorsements. If someone calls me and I resolve a case, if I get a letter of thanks at the end of the day, I'm happy. You know, to me, that's public service. And we're losing track of that. We're public servants. That's what I studied for. There's bad politicians out there. There are corrupt politicians out there. I'm not naive. I know the process. But when you dedicate yourself to helping people, they call you, they email you, they send you letters, you resolve the case, and then you get a letter of thanks at the end of the day, I'm happy. You know, and I sleep well at night knowing that I don't accept any donations from people convicted of ethical violations. I don't have a machine back in my candidacy. That's why the other side is worried. Is because, oh, no union endorsements, so if he's elected, they don't have the leverage on him, the unions? We have many structural deficits. The GIC is the answer. The unions don't want to accept it. There's a home rule petition right now that's languishing in the Ways and Means Committee on the House side. $2 million that would be covered over a 3-year loan. Okay? The school department had to swallow $1.7 million of that. $1.9 million is languishing House Ways and Means Committee. If it's not signed into law, that's thrusted back onto the books. And you're telling me you just balanced the budget properly? I don't think so. There's an automatic structural deficit. Steve might not be aware of it. He might be happy. I'm not sure where he's going door to door. Maybe in Pollard's neighborhood. I don't know.
Well, again, I don't know if he's saying who's backing who, but again, my list will be out as far as who contributed, but as you know, in September when it has to go out. That list will be finalized, and there's not a lot of people from one camp that are supporting me, so they'll be able to see that. The second part is, Al keeps on talking about they need change. I'd like to know what changes he's talking about. Again, we're talking about change. What changes you're going to bring to local government here? I have already, like I said, I'm on my record. I've been involved in this community for a long period of time. I've serviced. I want to give back to my community. It's not an issue of money, because I'm not going to look for another job. Al, you've run for West District Council, you've run for mayor, you've run for a state rep, you're running for mayor against, you're always running for something. The end result is, though, what changes are you going to bring to Methuen? You say, I'm going to bring change. And I heard Obama said that over the last term, I'm going to bring change. I'm asking you, what are you going to bring for change?
Number one, I don't give up. It's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. And that's my nature, and that's how I'll work for the citizens of Methuen as a mayor. I don't give up. I will stick with that. I'll tell you something. I got approached by a city employee the other day who's having a problem with a department head, and this can all be solved if they just sit down and talk. And he's approached several people and several politicians in the city to get this solved, and it's falling on deaf ears. So he asked me as a mayoral candidate, not even as a mayor, as a candidate, if you ever get elected, can you please just arrange a sit down so we could solve this and put it to rest? Right now it's festering. That's the change I'll bring. I know how to deal with people.
That individual never brought it to me.
250 employees in my last company, I knew all their names. I said good morning to every employee. It's a mindset sometimes. It's that simple to create change.
What's the
change? It's a simple mindset. It's leadership. The leadership, the people, you don't go and say, do what I say and not what I do. You have to live by. You have to lead by example. It's a total mindset,
What
Steve.
changes are you going to bring? I keep on asking you. That's not a change.
Do you not understand?
That's not a
You
change.
don't understand that answer?
No,
I'm sorry,
I'm
then I
asking
can't
what
help
change,
you.
what change are you going to bring in the city?
The change I would have brought to serve as mayor is what I brought to the school committee. I put a line in the sand with the teachers union. Okay? Stop having people from outside Methuen attend Methuen public schools simply because you work in the system. We had 19 new admissions that we're paying for. Okay, we stopped that system. No more new admissions. The teacher's contract was outrageous. 24% increase over 4 years. And that was 2007 when the recession started. Completely non-sustainable. Okay? You work with different groups. And as a result, the teachers union used to be the umbrella organization for a lot of individual unions. Those unions broke apart from the teachers union, and they came to the table and accepted multiple zeros in their contracts. Now, it didn't equate to what the municipal side did. They did 10% over a couple of years, and they should be commended for it, the municipal workers. If they joined the GIC, I don't think they needed that 10% reduction. Those are the ideas I'm prescribing. If the GIC is good for state police and the state fire marshal and correctional officers and other public safety individuals, why can't it be good for the police officers, the municipal workers, the fire people? I don't understand that. I'm part of the GIC. We have highly rated national plans. We save tons of money. My premiums, it's 80-20 is a split. It's 62-38 locally. You're almost in the dark ages. You're paying more for premiums, you're paying more for co-payments, you're paying more for deductibles now. And you're still running a deficit with the healthcare system. So that's my change.
Let me ask each of one of you guys, all of you, this question. If you are elected, how open and transparent will you be with the people of Bethune? We'll start with you, Mr. Zani.
Well, as best I can. You know, any way in which it's going to be done, it's fine by me. Like I said, if there's an issue that comes up, they'll be able to reach me. Just as Al mentioned somebody about somebody's coming to him. I've never received that call. If that individual had called me, I'd be more than glad to deal with that issue. But if somebody has an issue, if there's something to be done in this community, and I'll stand on my record for 6 years, they've been able not only to contact me, but if I can resolve something, I'll try to resolve it in a very amicable way for everybody. The other part of it is that becoming mayor of a city, this is not a job that can be just done for the sake of becoming mayor. This is a job that's a 24/7, as has been mentioned already, and the end result of that is going to be dealing with all facets of this community in all different walks of life. And what I want to do is be a people mayor, not one individual who's out there on my own. The end result is working for the people.
Mr. Willett?
Again, some of my ideas, and please go on my website, www.willettformayor.com. I want to have open office hours at the senior center, at the housing authority. So have the mayor out of the corner office to the senior center and the housing authority. I want to travel to people's homes at times. I used to do that for Arthur Broadhurst. I used to work locally for him because that's when you can review the paperwork, you can try to address their situation, and it's face-to-face. Most of my conversations in life is not over the phone, it's face-to-face. I've enjoyed those conversations. For the most part, people are the salt of the earth in Methuen. They're hardworking, they're dedicated, they're family-oriented, but they're overtaxed. Okay, they're sick and tired of the scandals. They're very wary of government. You need to have someone that has integrity, that has a background of meeting those demands, fulfilling my campaign promises. I'd love to have someone come forward and say, on a campaign promise, that I didn't fulfill one. I have a page after page of a lot of accomplishments over the years. I fulfilled my campaign promises. So you have to move in that direction. Thank you.
Mr. D'Annunzio?
978-360-1298. 978-360-1298. It's my cell phone number now. It'll be my cell phone number if you elect me as mayor. I will not change it. I will answer the phone. When you call me, I will address any issues you have. I can't be more open than that. My door will always be open at the office. My door is open at my home even today. I've had people come to my house on a regular basis to come talk politics. My door is open at my house. My door is open at my office. My cell phone number will never change. I'll always be available. I can't be more available than that.
And if you can keep this this line of question short, because we're running out of time. You've each submitted a question for each of the candidates, and we'll start with Al D'Annunzio. You submitted the question to the rest of the candidates. Do you believe the people of Methuen are divided? If so, along what lines? We'll start off with Ken Ouellette.
I would agree with Al on that. Honestly, I'm not going to poo-poo the issue or dismiss it. There is division within Methuen. If you look at it, Brooks Pharmacy, Chief Solomon, Superintendent Winton, Civil Service, people have a perception, rightly so, that there's favoritism in government. I'm not going to dismiss that. I fought against it all those years. So I agree that there's division, but is it something that can't be rectified or improved? I think if we move in the direction of having a community service board, having open office hours at the Senior Center and the Housing Authority, having someone go to homes, like Al said, I'll go to homes and meet with people. Again, my family will have to wait on certain occasions, probably dedicate Sundays to them. But it's going to be, again, it's a 70-hour proposition. My family's prepared for it, and I'm ready for it. I've done a lot of hours. I work at the State House. I've served as a city councilor, school committee. I volunteer with the Exchange Club and a lot of community service over the years. I'm ready for this position.
Mr. Zani?
Yeah, I think there has been division in the community. There's no question. I think people know what we've gone through with that. I think they can be resolved. And I think as mayor, I think a lot of the lawsuits will go away because I bring, my background, integrity to the position, and I think a lot of this will be resolved in my administration.
And this question was submitted by Ken Ouellette. He pledges not to accept donations from individuals found guilty of ethical violation, as this would be a betrayal of the public trust. Will my opponents take the same pledge? We'll start off with you, Mr. Zani.
I have taken contributions, as he's mentioning. As far as I'm concerned, people can make mistakes. They can be resolved. And the end result, as far as I'm concerned, the person, if they want to give a contribution, I have no problem with that, as long as the issue has been resolved.
Mr. Ouellette?
That's his own question.
I've said it repeatedly. Again, it's part of politics. It's part of machine politics. It's the worst gutter politics. Again, there was a betrayal of public trust. Brooks Pharmacy, $200,000. No notification to the city council. No public input. They just diverted the money. That was absolutely wrong. They actually escalated the fine structure because now it's beyond $4,000. And she had 2 ethical violations assigned to her. If he's proud to have her support, I mean, to me, how do you go beyond being an independent candidate for any office? I mean, that's the old-time politics in the past. That's got to be put away forever.
Thank you, Mr. Ouellette.
I got to answer my question. Yeah. I do believe the city's divided, and I believe divided on many single levels. We are employees versus employees, departments versus departments. We have the employees versus department heads. We have citizens versus employees, councilors versus councilors. We're divided everywhere, and I'll tell you how this happened. It's a management tactic. It's not a good management tactic, but it's a management tactic. It was created over the last 6 years, and it's called divide and conquer. And that's how you get things done if you don't know how to do them the correct way. And that's what happened to the city. So I will try, as mayor, I will accomplish as mayor, creating harmony again in the city. We need to create harmony. As far as the pledge, I absolutely do take that pledge. That's a great question. Thank you for that.
Great.
Thank you, Al.
We want to thank you guys for coming in and sharing your thoughts and opinions into the open government and how your administration would operate. I'm going to give each of you the opportunity to look at this camera and pitch your pitch to the people. Mr. Zani, we'll start with you.
Well, I want to thank you, first of all, Hector, for having us. I think there was some thought-provoking questions here this morning. I think the end result of that is people will have an opportunity to now to view the 3 of us. And again, I will bring solutions to the issues that are upon us. I think the most important part, again, is to look at the leadership that you want for the community of Methuen to move forward. I think some of the issues that have been mentioned here this morning, especially with the lawsuits and some of the other things, those things I will resolve in my administration. There will also be a more fine-tuned government in terms of how we perform government for the people, dealing with departments, dealing with employees. So I hope as we go through this process, and I see you on the streets as well as in the neighborhoods, that I have a chance not only to talk to you individually, but also to listen to your concerns and what you would like me to do as your next mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Willett?
And again, Steve talks about formulas that justify a tax increase. Again, it's probably the largest tax increase in quite some time. Again, I'm not accepting any union endorsements. I'm not accepting any donations from people found guilty of ethical violations. I have the most accessible campaign. I talk about the issues. I've already done advertising because I'm proud of my record. I'm the only person on this panel right now who's repeatedly voted against tax increases, repeatedly voted against municipal and school budgets. I'm an advocate for the GIC. I was a co-sponsor of the residency enforcement policy that kicked out anywhere from 100 to 150 students, saved Methuen taxpayers well over $500,000. If we joined the GIC, we would save $2 million more. Again, if you add casinos and Holy Family Hospital and some other things, you can have decent salaries for the workers. You could have lowered premiums for the health insurance. You could have capital improvement plans instead of borrowing a fire truck from Andover. That's not the Methuen I want to be part of. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeNuccio.
I took the leap of faith, putting myself out there as a candidate for mayor. Now I ask you, the citizens of Methuen, to take the leap of faith and give me 2 years. Give me 2 years to prove myself as a businessman, as a family man, as a man of integrity. Don't settle for okay. Believe in better, because there is better out there. Believe in better. Don't settle for okay. Please, on Election Day, consider me, Al DeNuccio, for mayor. Thank you.
And I want to thank each and every one of you for coming in, and I want to thank the viewers at home for watching. Thank you to the MCTV crew. Join us next time as we go behind the scenes to ask the tough questions, bring you their responses, and we let you decide. Thank you for joining us.